Hey everyone, I'm excited to do this video today. First of all, because I want to get back to more daily live videos to bring you the latest and greatest content to keep you in the groove, pun intended, and keep you up to speed with some great trends, some amazing people that you should be following and connecting with, like today's guest. Before I introduce him, I want to lay some context of why I feel like this topic is so important. As an entrepreneur and a consultant and an advisor to other companies, I've always felt it was my duty to stay on top of what's going on in the world, not just the news, but what's really going on behind the scenes in business and the latest trends, the most operational efficiencies that people can use in their businesses, and different ways to build their businesses or ways to save money in building their businesses. So I'm always learning, and I love learning. Even when the topic is boring or it seems not as sexy, I force myself to learn it. And then once I learn it, I realize how valuable that process is to really investigate things and ask questions. When you're out networking, I know a lot of times I observe people at networking events and they're just walking around, handing out their cards, more interested in what they want to offer versus asking other people who they are and what they really do. And that's where you're going to find the most value, not just pitching your company, but asking other people what they do, and more importantly, trying to then connect them with other people. But as a learner that's always trying to find out what's going on in the world, I was at an event back in the fall with our guest today, Justin Deal. And after the event, we went to a social gathering at a bar across the street. And people were starting to talk, and one of the owners of the restaurant was there. And I heard Justin ask a question, especially because they were part of a restaurant group. A question that was very relevant was, did you get your employee retention credits? And I thought, this is such a funny opening line. Like, this is cracking me up. And the owner kind of glossed over and wasn't really sure, but said yes, but they weren't really sure at all if they did. And I could tell that Justin was really passionate about this. So I was half listening, and then I watched him kind of just like teeter his conversation off a little bit. And then we're out again. Not too long after that, I heard him talk about it again. So I really paid attention and learned that this employee retention credit is something that can make or save, either way you want to look at it, business owners a lot of money, and they don't even realize that it's money just sitting there waiting for them if they qualify. So I reached out to Justin again after that second time of hearing it to say, tell me more about this. I want to understand it, because I know that there are a lot of friends of mine and clients of mine that can benefit from this. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome today's guest, most energized person that many of you will meet, Justin Deal. Welcome.
Jen, thank you so much for having me today. Super pumped to talk to your crew.
So everybody, Justin is from Payday Employee Solutions, and he's based in Jersey, South Jersey, but you work all over the area, not just in this location. So your company does a lot of things. I want to first talk about why we are having this live today. And then I would love to take it from there, also to inform the audience on some of the other services that they can benefit from. But tell me about this employee retention credit, because it's like finding gold for a lot of businesses. And you told me some really cool stories about clients of yours and people that are not even clients of yours that you've been helping, including Steve. So fill us in on what this is and how people can access it.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Jen. So the employee retention credits were part of the CARES Act. So almost everybody was familiar with the PPP when that came through. A lot of people got both rounds, some only one. But the employee retention credits was kind of this side caveat that most people didn't really pay a lot of attention to. Unfortunately, as much as I love my accountants out there, you know, you're my favorite people, there was definitely some misguidance around the two different tests. So what the ERC really is, it's a tax law that while you were in business through the entire pandemic, you can actually receive tax money back from the IRS for the due diligence and having good faith, paying your employees through a lot of the struggles. So there's two tests to qualify for this. The first one is the one that most of the accountants look at first. And if you don't qualify, they kind of stop there. And that's based on your gross revenue. So in 2020, everything's compared back to 2019, the same quarters. You would look at quarter two of 2020 compared to quarter two of 2019, three, you would keep going that way. And if you were down 50% in gross revenue in 2020 compared to any quarter in 2019, you're now eligible. In 2021, they realized, most businesses, if they're down 50% gross revenue, they're probably not going to survive for too long. So we should maybe make an adjustment here. So in 2021, they changed it to being down 20% gross revenue in quarters 1, 2, or 3 of 21, again, compared back to 19. Now, the problem with that is a lot of businesses still had good revenue years, but the second test is really how their business was impacted. So test 2 is that you were partially or fully shut down due to the pandemic and the government mandates. So in a state like New Jersey, most brick and mortars, you had to have under 50% capacity for your business. Pennsylvania, I believe in Philly at one point, it was as low as 25%. So I'll give you two perfect examples to kind of bring this full circle for you.
Great.
So let's take a pizza shop. So a pizza shop, most people ordered more than they typically would. On average, you order once a week. During the pandemic, you probably did it at least twice a week because their food is made to be delivered, it's fresh, and it's still delicious. Now, their revenue went up because they had more deliveries, they had more carry out, but they all have seating inside of their business. Now, even if it were only 10 tables that could seat 40 people, by law, they could only have half of those tables occupied. So whether or not they had a good revenue year, they could have done much better. What the ERC now allows you to do is you go back and you can get up to $26,000 per employee. So let me break that down for you. In the entire year of 2020, you can get up to $5,000 per employee. What they have to do is they make $10,000 in a quarter, you get 50% of that back. If they made $3,000, you get $1,500 back, and the math will go, but it caps it to 10 and 5. In 2021, they up that number to 70% or $7,000 per quarter, 1, 2, and 3. So if your employee makes $40,000 a year, they're going to get the full $7,000 each quarter that you're eligible, and then the 5 in 2020. Now, the one thing to really keep in mind here, we're going to revert back to the PPP that we spoke about. When you do the link that Jen will share for you, if you're interested in the service, it's going to ask you when you received your PPP funding and then when you stopped using it. So not when you got forgiveness, but the amount of time that you used those funds to take care of your payroll, rent, utilities, what that was meant for. We back those wages out from all of the wages we'll collect and the wages that are around that. So let's just say in a perfect world, you got it January 1st of 21 and it lasted 13 weeks. So the entire Q1 is off the table. So now you would be eligible for quarter 2, quarter 3, and possibly 2020, depending on when you got the PPP. We'll do all of that work, figure out based off the reporting that you give us, what that credit would look like for you. And then we have a conversation once you have all the information on how much you're getting back per quarter and what our charges are, that you get to make a decision. If you don't want to move forward, no harm, no foul. We charge you nothing. If you'd like to move forward, we take a percentage and a small upfront fee. So we've really positioned ourselves to bring the value. A lot of payroll companies out there, they're doing it for 25 and 30%. We wanted to be very fair. So for our active clients, we do it at a 10% rate. For non-clients, we do it at 15%. And again, for most folks, just to paint the picture again for you, a small 6-employee company I have got about $50,000 back. And then folks who own several restaurants got several $1 million back. So again, if you have a brick and mortar, and that's really what this is going to be for. So if you're a restaurant, if you are a doctor's office, you're a salon, you're a brewery, you're a distillery, any of those types of things where people are coming in your doors, spending time, and that's how you create revenue, you are going to be eligible for this because during the entire pandemic, you had different protocols you had to follow. One being half the amount of people. And let's take the doctor's offices, for example. You also had new health regulations for the cleaning you had to do in between patients. So if pre-pandemic you were seeing 30 or 40 patients a day, during the pandemic you were probably seeing 10 to 15 a day because of all these different mandates that were coming through. So our job is to help you bridge that gap. Again, you might have been up in revenue. Maybe you were up 20% this year, but had you been able to cycle through the same amount of people every single day, it could have been a banner year for you, and maybe you would have been up 70, 80, or 100%. This is going to help offset any of those wages you missed out on. And it does drill a little deeper. So supply chain is part of it as well. So if you have a service-based business, let's say automotive, and you couldn't get any of the car parts, you couldn't get the brakes, and you had all this work on the books that you couldn't actually perform and collect that revenue, that would be part of how you would be eligible. So there's a lot of gray area. And that's why, as much as I love my accountants, they love black and white. They want it to fit in that pretty little box for them. And this is just one of those things that, it doesn't quite fit in the box. So it's really on you as the business owner to put thought into how were you affected during the pandemic? Can you say that either it was something where supply chain completely restricted how much revenue you made, even though you probably had a good year, you could have done much better? Or were you only allowed to have that maximum capacity, which obviously affected the amount of revenue that you could gain for that year? All of these are going to be reasons why you're eligible. And I would hate to see people leave money on the streets because this is becoming more and more prevalent. So the way I really say this to folks is you have to remember a lot of your competition has probably heard of this and might be taking up on it. So if they're getting that $80, $100, $150,000 injection of capital, how much more can they do now than you? So just trying to keep it an even playing field. I want to make sure people are educated on this. And obviously, if I can help you at all and you would love for us to do a free consultation, I'm here to do that for you.
Now let me ask you a question. And thank you so much for doing such a great job explaining it and making it very simple for people to understand. I'm sure there are so many businesses that are sitting on money right now. And I would want access to that if I were you. So not you, meaning them, the business owner. So are you able to do this for people in every state?
Absolutely. Yeah, no matter where you are, we do payroll in about 43 states nationally. But we can help with any of that. It really all comes down to your federal return. So just to paint the picture for what it looks like and for our turnaround time, you would click on the link. You're going to fill in some information. If you have any questions on that, you just call me directly and I'll walk you through it. Our team will then collect that data. We'll reach back out to you to request payroll registers for the wages around the time that you got the PPP loans. Within about 48 hours of receiving those documents from you, we'll go ahead and we'll process all the numbers. We'll use the algorithm and some of our proprietary software to spit that out pretty quickly. And then we present an email that lines the year and then the quarter, how much money you're going to get back, and then what our payout would be. And just for full transparency, so the upfront cost is $1,000 per quarter that you're eligible. And that's for all the work we'll do upfront. And then with the IRS, the amendments, and then following up on your behalf. And then we take 15% of the overall return, less that upfront fee. So let's just say simple math. You are eligible for all 4 quarters. You're going to get $100,000 back. We would take $4,000 upfront. And then once you receive the $100,000, we would collect the remaining $6,000. You net 90 in profit. We take our 10. Everybody hopefully is super happy about that. And the only, we'll call it caveat of this, is this money, again, this isn't a loan, this is an injection of capital. So this is taxable income for the business. So if you got that 100,000 we just talked about, it's like you just sold a $100,000 job or widget for your business. And that's all when it comes to the accounting side.
And let me just clarify in case anyone's questioning what you just said. So you do the analysis first, and then you will go back to the client and say, we see that you're eligible for these 4 quarters. So they don't pay you a dime until they know that they're already eligible. That's accurate, correct?
Yep, that's absolutely correct. And they'll have all of the analytics and all the numbers right in front of them. So they'll be able to make that decision saying, okay, this quarter I'm getting this much back. Here's what payday's taking, so on and so forth. And as you can imagine, they're typically great conversations, right? Because especially when they're non-clients, I'm this random guy that they just happen to meet and take 5-10 minutes